Folks, this is Book Talk with Corbin, and I am your host today. Well, every time we do a show, we always have a good guest, someone who can really give us some things to think about and to consider and ponder. And that's exactly what we have with Miss Angela Billings. I've met her a couple of times, and boy, every time I speak to her, I get that much more impressed. She's a 22-year Air Force veteran, served our country for 22 years. She has 2 MBAs, not one, folks, I said 2. And she also has started a business last October, Virago Circle. And it's one thing the company does is it's help enhance a company's public presence and public speaking. And really, when you look at it, some of the most successful people we know of were halfway decent public speakers. One of my great heroes was Booker T. Washington, and public speaking was critical, I believe, to his success. So a company like this, folks, if you want to do better, you need to be in touch with Virago Circle, Miss Angela Billings. And she is now the Jefferson County Republican Party Director of Communications. That's one of her clients. And I'm sure she's probably looking or willing to take on a couple more clients. Is that right, sis?
I absolutely would be willing to take on a few more clients. Thank you, Corbin.
Yeah, I mean, and it's an important service that you're bringing forth there. Sis, let's go immediately into this. We do about 15, 20 minutes. I was at a GOP meeting, and the director there was saying, hey, we believe these are the 3 critical issues: education, public safety, and economic development. Let me share this with you real quick. A day or 2 after that meeting, I put on my Facebook page, what do you think are the 3 critical issues facing Louisville today? Overwhelmingly, public safety. Overwhelmingly. I was really sort of surprised at that, to be honest with you, that overwhelmingly public safety.
Well, I'm really glad that people are realizing that without public safety, this city is not going to flourish. That is really the foundational concept that we have to see realized, is to be able to work and live and realize our own individual dreams. But it has to start with safe streets where we can open businesses, where we can meet with our friends and our family. And also, huge part of our industry here in Louisville is the tourism industry. And I know a lot of time and effort and money's been put into developing that. And we are that's a big part of our economy here. So without public safety, having safe streets to meander at will, as you see fit, we won't be able to realize economic prosperity. And that is, I'm glad that so many people recognize that.
And you talk about tourism. I mean, I've traveled many different countries. When I founded a nonprofit organization, we did a tremendous amount of work overseas. One thing I noticed is that, boy, those countries, they would make sure those tourists were safe. Because that was income.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was income. This is their lifeblood. And there are a lot of people connected to that tourist industry.
Absolutely. And, what was so disheartening with the tragedy of Breonna Taylor last year, that my heart goes out to her family. And certainly many of us have been impacted by that. And I think that the climate was created that allowed for that to happen because of a lack of leadership in our current administration.
And go ahead, sis.
Well, I just, real leadership is when you take responsibility for and have accountability for actions. And I don't see a lot of that in our current administration. I see a big bubble around our current administration without a lot of real leadership and putting people in place that are going to affect positive change.
Mm-hmm. And yet, you know, just to change that a little bit, you talked about, you know, the mayor, you know, the elected officials. I was very disappointed in not hearing more forceful voices from some of the civic leaders, just unequivocally coming out saying, hey, this is wrong. You can protest all day, every day, twice on Sunday, no problem whatsoever with that. We would even encourage that. But then when the vandalizing came up, the looting, there were some, not all, but some who just seemed to equivocate a little bit like, well, they're upset. Well, they're fighting for justice.
Well, and violence is never a good answer. Certainly, I appreciate that they want protesters want their voices to be heard, and I applaud that. That is one of the freedoms that I, when as a service member, fought to defend. Other countries don't necessarily have that, and we have that here in the United States. We were catapulted onto the national stage, really international stage, in a very negative light because of inaction, because of constraints that were placed on our police force that really limited how they could perform their duties that they were sworn to perform. Yes. And subsequently, that went on for 3-4 months.
Yes.
And just disheartening. And people moved away from Louisville as a result of that. Yes.
Moved away, and there's still more talk about moving away. You walk around, and you know this better than I do. You go to downtown, some parts of it looks like, what hit it?
It's so disheartening to still see buildings that are boarded up, and to know that so much damage was done and was allowed to be done by our leadership. So I think that I hope that we're beyond all that, but I definitely see, and in talking with people, that there's a huge bruise on Louisville, and that going forward, we've got to put emphasis on safety in our streets so that our economy can flourish once again.
Well, that's a good segue into the next issue: economic development, jobs. Mm-hmm. Other than getting that public safety piece in place, what are some other things you think need to be done?
Well, coming up here, we have our budget that is currently under consideration, and if your listeners don't know, they can have a part in that process. You can sign up to speak to our Louisville Metro Council as they receive input into the mayor's proposed budget. So that hearing is Thursday, May the 27th. So that's next week. They can sign up to either speak, or they can submit their input by email. You can go to the Louisville Metro webpage and find those links to do so. And I think that definitely putting some time and putting some money into a lot of the deferred maintenance that has been put off for far too long, many years over under this current administration, that we have to take care of that. We've got to have roads that are able to be traveled, and sidewalks to buildings that are being built, and homes that are being built, and the parks that we all enjoy and want to continue to do so. Mm-hmm. So we really have to put put money into that infrastructure that makes Louisville an attractive place for people to move to, raise their families in, and realize their own individual dreams, not necessarily the dreams and that a government might want them to realize, but their individual dreams, and they get to have that choice.
Yes. And what role do you think education plays in this big picture?
Oh, it's critical. I'm from Bardstown originally, one of 6 kids, a one-income family,
Wow.
and the first of those 6 kids, I was number 5. So I was the first of those 6 kids to actually go to college. My parents, as I said, one income family, and education was always important to them. My parents scrimped and saved and put us through private school so that we would have that educational foundation. And I can remember my dad telling me when I was about 10 years old, Angela, you need to go to college. You got to get your education because no matter what, no one can take that away from you. Mm. So, and I took it to heart, and I still advocate for that education. We very fortunately were able to pass HB 563 that allows for a scholarship of sorts. And I know some of the details are still being worked out. I believe there's a meeting next week of our leaders to do just that. But it allows donors who want to put their Kentucky tax liability into a scholarship for a child who needs some additional services or might need to go to a school that's not necessarily in their neighborhood, the opportunity to do that, to take advantage of that so that their foundation is laid. Right. And this, I've had the great fortune to speak with a number of pastors in West Louisville, Pastor Stevenson, yes, with Midwest Church of Christ, and some of the other pastors there, Dr. Wilson with Spirit of Life. The education is it's so very important, and they all realize and recognize that fourth grade is a critical year, and that yes, a lot of our children are not necessarily grasping those foundational concepts that set them up for success. Mm-hmm. And this bill is providing an opportunity where, at no cost to the donor, really, that allows an opportunity for children who wouldn't otherwise have that.
Yeah, I'd like to. The 2 pastors you mentioned, great brothers in the Lord. And then also I'd like to add to that Pastor Cecil Belay. He mm-hmm. tried to start a school. And the studies are rather clear that there's that one age, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, that's critical.
And only about 20% of children in the western side of our city are prepared for yes, school, just to start kindergarten. Yes. So, all those gentlemen have really taken it upon themselves. I know that during this last year of COVID, they have created programs at their churches. Destiny Academy is one that has existed and continues to foster those children and give them some direction and really open up their eyes to the possibilities that exist. Louisville says it's a city of possibility. It's a possibility only if we have an educational foundation, and the Pastors Coalition is really emphasizing that, and I'm so pleased to see that, and they're wrapping their arms around the children, but also the parents too, because the parents need support and yes, need help with that education of their children and starting them off on the right path so that they can realize their own individual dreams and be contributing members of our community.
Right. And sis, you brought it up several times. People pursuing their dreams, individuals pursuing their dreams. And one thing that seems to bother me, and I know this is really not a GOP position one way or the other, okay, but you have some folks out there who keep saying to Black folk in America, you can't succeed. The system is against you. Systemic racism, it's been here for several centuries, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's so frustrating when you keep saying, well, you keep hearing, even from President Obama, he made this statement, racism is part of the America's DNA.
Mm.
Well, brother, if it's part of the DNA, I have no chance.
Right. And you, President Obama, being in the position that you were in, what did you do to change that? I mean,
well, I tell you one thing he did. He had a heck of a Harvard education, and then graduated from Harvard.
Right. And so there's your proof. And I will, advocate for and the opinion of, as I mentioned at the beginning of our talk here, I was from a very, poor family. I mean, like I said, one income, 6 kids. And, I took opportunity. I could have, for me personally, I could have stayed in Bardstown, not gone to college, continued to wait tables as I did during school. But I made some different choices, and I didn't get a scholarship, even though I had really good grades. I went to a community college for a couple of years, and then I came to Louisville, and I graduated from the University of Louisville, and I joined the service because I had certainly it was on my heart to serve, but I also needed a job after college.
Right.
So I've created some opportunity and used the resources that are available to me. And I would advocate that it is a matter of personal choice. So if I could just continue on with, I have my own children, and I want them to succeed, and I want them to have choice and opportunity. And so everything that my husband and I have done for my girls has been to create just that, so that they can realize those dreams.
Yes.
Now, I certainly recognize that, many people don't necessarily see that opportunity or have been shown that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there are some that don't necessarily choose it either. And
yes.
Leveraging the many, many wonderful programs that we do already have to help parents raise their children, to educate them in a manner that they choose, in the school that they choose. That's an individual freedom that the Republican Party actually, that's one of our basic tenets.
Yes.
It's, and we want people to be able to make that choice for themselves and what's best for them and their family.
Amen. And it's a good point to stop this interview. Thank you so much for your time today. But before we go,
yes,
I'm going to ask you to make a shameless plug. Tell us about your business and your website.
Sure, Corbin. Thank you so much. So the viragocircle.com is my website. Virago, in its original Latin form, means a brave or heroic woman. So as I was pondering what I wanted my business to be, I drew upon my time and my experience in the military, advocating for national security issues and protecting the freedoms that we have. And so I kind of borrowed from that in the development of my name. And I will bring my courage to any client who needs a little help with their public presence, who finds themselves in a situation where they're not quite sure what to do publicly. I can offer some advice, and I can help them maximize that situation.
All right. Ma'am, thank you so much. We will be in touch, okay?
Thank you, Corbin. It was a pleasure to speak with you today.
Good.